In the last video, I showed you guys the best mech and weapon builds from tier 1 to tier 4 in the gear hub. This time, I'm going to be showing you guys the best mech and weapon builds from tier 5 to tier 9 for intermediate and advanced players. Without anything further to do, let's start the video. And the first mech and weapon combo for tier 5 is Redeemer with Podgun 8s. This is a great combo because you can just go up to your enemy and shoot the podguns, or you can even go behind something and shoot around that object. And if the enemy tries to rush you, then you can just use Redeemer's backtrack ability. Next, we have Zephyr with the Ember Gun 10 and Ember Gun 6. The reason why this is such a great combo is because Zephyr has an ability where you can just stun your enemy for 3 seconds, unless you have an implant that makes it longer. And while your enemy is stunned, you can go behind that enemy mech and use the powerful Ember Guns to destroy that enemy mech. And Zephyr's ability range is only 30 meters, which is about the same for Ember Guns. And Ember Guns do a lot of damage when you get behind your enemy mech. Now we have a rank 4 Guardian with the Nade Launcher 10 and the Cryo Launcher 10. The reason why this is such a great combo is because with the Nade and Cryo Launchers, you can stay far away, or you can be close up to your enemy when you shoot them. And if you choose to be close up, or if your enemy is rushing towards you, then you can just use Guardian's ability, the System Crash, and then make your enemy's weapons reload and put his ability on cooldown. These weapons also do a lot of damage. Next, we have Ares with Disc Launcher 8s. Ares is a great mech to use with disc launchers because of his ability. Ares' ability is a shield that deploys right in front of him, and with the Disc Launcher 8 and Ares' shield, you can go right up in front of your enemy's face, or you can go out in the open from a decent distance away, try to shoot your enemy, or you can even be behind an obstacle while shooting the Disc Launcher 8s because they can curve their trajectory. Also, Ares is a tank, so he'll have a lot of health. And last but not least, for tier 5, we have Stalker with Helix Rack 8s. The reason why this is such a good combo is because Stalker's ability makes it so that you can have a 50% damage buff with your weapons, and combine that with the Helix Rack's long range, and you can have an almost unstoppable force. Mainly, the only mechs you want to be careful around in this tier is Surge and Nomad with basically any weapons, since you will be facing pay-to-win players. You can counter Surge with Redeemer or Guardian, but it can be difficult, and in this tier you can't counter Nomad whatsoever, even with Zephyr, so try to keep your distance from those mechs. And the first mech and weapon combo we have for tier 6 is Guardian with the 2 Missile Rack 12s for 2v2 and dual Helix Rack 12s for CPC. Why choose Missile Racks? Well, first of all, Guardian has a max energy capacity of 32, so he can easily get 24 energy, which compared to other mechs, some can't even get to 24 energy, and some have to be maxed out in order to get to 24 energy. And the Missile Racks do a lot of damage. And with the Helix Rack 12s, it's pretty similar, with Guardian having an energy capacity of 32. Since the Helix Racks have a minimum range of 20 meters, you're not going to want your enemies to be up too close. So if your enemies do try to get up close, then you can just use Guardian's ability and make their weapons reload. And hopefully you can run away and then shoot your enemy from there. Next, we have one of the best builds for tier 6 for CPC and 2v2. We have Panther with rank 6 Podgun 10s. This combo is especially good because of Panther's barrier, which makes you be able to go out in the open and shoot your enemies from there. And then next, we have another one of the best mech and weapon builds for tier 6, Redeemer with rank 6 Storm Rack 10s. This is an insanely good combo because the Storm Racks have a huge damage radius, and they don't take too long to fire, so once you do fire them, then you can use Redeemer's ability, backtrack, and then run away, because the Storm Racks have a pretty long reload time. Now we have Orion with Helix Rack 16. This is a great build for tier 6 because Guardian's ability makes it so that you can have an extra 150% damage to your weapon, and Orion isn't very good close up, so you want to use something that is long or medium range, just like the Helix Racks. Or if you already have the Helix Rack 8s, then you can use those as well if you want to save some credits. And the last mech and weapon combo we have for tier 6 is Zephyr with the Ember Gun 10 and 6. As I said before, this is a great combo because Zephyr's ability, where you can stun them for 3 seconds, go up behind your enemy, and then blow them away with the Ember Guns. In this tier and moving forward, you are going to go up against a lot of players with paid items. And same thing with the last tier, you want to look out for Surge, which you actually can counter with Zephyr, but it's pretty difficult. And sometimes Guardian if the Surge doesn't have Revokers or Ember Guns. But Nomad is the most dangerous, with Orion, Panther, and Guardian being very vulnerable to Nomad. And your best chance for countering Nomad is Redeemer with Storm Racks. But the other mech that you want to watch out for is Eclipse. Eclipse can counter all of your mech in this hangar except for Redeemer and Guardian, which can counter Eclipse unless Eclipse has Revokers or Ember Guns like the Surge. And the very first combo we have for tier 7 in the Gear Hub is of course Surge with Ember Gun 10s. The reason why you want to use Ember Guns and Surge is simple. With Surge's dash ability, you're going to want to use a close quarters weapon. And the best close quarters free to play weapon are the Ember Guns. And with Surge's dash ability, you also stun your enemy for 4 seconds without any implants, which is a big help to Ember Guns. Next we have Eclipse with the Ember Gun 12 and Ember Gun 8. You would use the Ember Gun 10s, but since there aren't 4 Ember Gun 10s, you're gonna need to improvise with the Ember Gun 12 and Ember Gun 8. And these are a great combo for Eclipse because Eclipse's ability makes him untrackable and a little bit faster. So while its ability is active, you can go right up to your enemy without having any effects being applied to you, and they can't shoot you if they have Savants, Javelin Racks, Helix Rack, or anything that needs to lock onto a mech in order to fire. Next, we have Redeemer with the Storm Rack 10s. As I said before, Redeemer and Storm Rack 10s work very well because the Storm Racks have a very large damage radius, and once you shoot the Storm Racks, you can use Redeemer's ability to backtrack until Storm Racks reload. Then you can repeat the cycle. And now we have a Panther with dual Missile Rack 12s for 2v2 and dual Helix Rack 12s for CPC. These are great combos because with Missile Racks, you need to be either right in front of your enemy or shoot very close to them because they don't have a very large damage radius. And since Panther's ability is a barrier which allows you to walk up to your enemy and shoot them straight on or shoot very close to them without even taking any damage. And the last mech for tier 7 is one of the best free to play mechs in my opinion, Guardian. And with Guardian you'll use the rank 6 Storm Rack 12 and 16. Even though the Storm Rack 12s cost over 8,000 A coins, they are very worth it. And the Storm Rack 16 only costs about 800,000 credits, so that will make it a lot easier than having them both at 8,000 E-coins. And this is a great combo because of Guardian's ability. So with Guardian, you can stay far away and shoot the Storm Racks at your enemy because of their large damage radius, or you can run up to your enemy and use Guardian's ability to make your enemy's weapons reload and put their ability on cooldown, then destroy them with the Storm Rack 12 and 16 then. And they do a ton of damage. In this tier, you'll be playing against a lot more players with mechs like Deathwalker, Nomad, and Solus, which are all mechs that you should look out for since your only counter to Solus is Eclipse and your only counter to Deathwalker can be Guardian and maybe Redeemer, but remember that Guardian is very fragile, so even though you can counter Deathwalker with Guardian, you can still be easily killed by the Deathwalker. You can counter Nomad with Surge if you have the right weapons like Revokers or Ember Guns, but I recommend Revokers because the Ember Guns don't do nearly as much damage as the Revokers. A much better counter to Nomad is Redeemer with its backtrack ability, especially when you have Storm Racks equipped on Redeemer. Next we have the best mech and weapon combos for advanced players. And first up in tier 8 we have Surge with dual Ember 12s. As I mentioned earlier, Ember Guns are a great weapon to use with Surge. So you can dash right up to your enemy, stun them for 4 seconds without any implants, and then destroy them with the Ember Gun 12s from the back. Then we have Eclipse with the Storm Rack 10s. This is a great combo because the Storm Rack 10s cost credits, and they have a huge damage radius. So you can use Eclipse ability, sneak up on your enemy, and then destroy them from the back with the Storm Rack 10s, which do extra damage just like the Ember Gun 12s if you shoot them from the back. And you don't even have to be very close to do a lot of damage with the Storm Rack 10s, or any Storm Rack. Next we have Nomad with the Ember Gun 16 and 8. Very similar to Surge with the Ember Gun 12s, you're going to want to use the Ember Guns because of Nomad's dashing ability. With Nomad's dashing ability you can get very close to your enemy. You're going to want to use the best close quarters weapon for Nomad, which are the Ember Guns. And since you don't have 2 pairs of Ember Gun 12s, you're going to need to improvise with the Ember Gun 16 and 8. Next, we have Redeemer with the Stormrack 12s for 2v2 and a dual Helix Rack 12s for CPC. As I said before with the Redeemer, the Stormracks work very well with Redeemer because of their damage radius and Redeemer's ability. So you can just shoot Stormracks at your enemy, then use Redeemer's ability, wait for the Stormracks to reload, and then repeat the process. And then we have Guardian with the Stormrack 16s for 2v2 and dual Helix Rack 16s for CPC. The Stormrack 16s are a great weapon for Guardian because you can shoot the Stormrack 16s from far away or close up, and if an enemy tries to push or you push up to your enemy, you can use the Guardian's ability to make the enemy's ability on cooldown and make your enemies reload their weapons. Plus, the Stormracks do a lot of damage, especially the Stormrack 16s. And for CPC, the Helix Rack 16s work very well with Guardian because Guardian isn't a very strong mech, and Guardian has a max energy capacity of 32, so he can hold some very big weapons. And since Guardian doesn't have a lot of health, you want to stay back away from the fight. And since you want to stay away from the fight, you want some long range weapons like Helix Racks. And if an enemy tries to come close up to you, then you can just use the System Crash ability and then try to walk backwards and then destroy your enemy with the Helix Rack 16s. And in Tier 9, since there aren't any free-to-play mechs or weapons, you only need to change 2 things. One is max out Orion, and 2, get the Railgun 12s, and then get those to rank 6, so you can have 2 of them on Orion. And this is how the hanger should look when you're all maxed out. You should have Surge with Ember Gun 12s, Eclipse with Stormrack 16 and 6, because the 8 just isn't worth 8,000 Acorns, you can just use the Stormrack 6. And then you have Nomad with the Ember Gun 16 and 8, and Redeemer with Stormrack 16 and 6, and of course Orion with the Railgun 12s. And if you would like, you can try the Stormrack 12s on Orion, and if you don't like that as much as having Railguns on Orion, then I recommend putting the Stormrack 12s on Eclipse. Just like in Tier 7, you'll be facing a lot more players with mechs like Deathwalker, Solus, Dreadnought, and all of those new meta mechs like Lacewing and Surge for Tier 8 and above. So what are the mechs that you should be most careful around? Well, there's a few. First off, there's Vortex. Your only counter to Vortex is Guardian, and as I said, Guardian is very fragile, so you'll want to try to stay as far away from Vortex as you can when trying to destroy it. And no, Eclipse is not a counter to Vortex. Another mech that you should be careful when facing is Deathwalker, like in Tier 7, but you have powerful enough weapons that you shouldn't be too much of a concern. All you need is your Guardian and your Stormracks. Just stay far away as you can and try to destroy the Deathwalker from there. And the last mech that you should look out for Tier 8 is Lacewing. Lacewing is incredibly hard to counter as a free-to-play player, so you'll want to start to rank up your Orion. Now in this last tier, you should have the best free-to-play mechs and weapons in your hangar so that you can counter as many pay-to-win meta mechs or weapons. And since this is the best hangar in my opinion for free-to-play players, there are still some mechs that are challenging to counter as a free-to-play player. And one of those annoying mechs is Lacewing, as I talked about in the last tier. Lacewing's ability can make it pretty difficult to kill, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to use Orion with its Stormracks, or you can use Railguns if you have them. But if you don't have Railguns, then I recommend you use Stormracks on an Orion, or you can also use Surge. But using Surge only works if the Lacewing isn't up high on an object. And since you're replacing Guardian with Orion, Deathwalker shouldn't be a challenging mech to go up against anymore because of Orion's ability.